Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We have an exciting topic for you today. It is 10 o'clock in the morning in the Eastern United States. I'm coming to you from our head office at Core ALM in Clearwater, Florida. And welcome. We have an exciting topic. Today, we're going to be talking about why SAP projects fail and how to, one of the tools that we have that can help you is an integration between Cloud ALM and Azure DevOps. And we're going to get into that a little bit. Later on, I'll be introducing my guest for today. That is Harold Sika. Actually, we had originally booked this with Valdrin, but he had to take a meeting with one of our customers. Luckily, we have lots of experts who know these tools and can support that. So Harold is jumping in on today's webinar to walk you through how Cloud ALM works together with Azure DevOps, and then we will go through a product demonstration and get you familiar with Cloud ALM. Before we get in there, I'm just going to jump into a little bit of background on who Core ALM is and how we can help customers. So background on ourselves: we started. The company was founded about 15 years ago when our CEO and founder left his position as the head of the Application Lifecycle Management, the ALM practice at SAP. Many of our team worked together at SAP before they, before Core ALM was founded, and have been continuing to partner with SAP as we go forward. But the reason why Core ALM was started is our founder, Labinat Bertucci, recognized that there was a kind of a gap in the market for service providers that had specific focus on application lifecycle management for SAP customers. And there's many companies that are in that camp and wanted to provide some exclusive focused services on that little kind of micro niche to serve that niche across these large customers. So we started out providing services, but initially it was in about 2018, we saw the opportunity to start to build some integrations and some software that we could actually license to our customers to help solve problems that they were seeing in their projects as well as in their ongoing operations. And for instance, the reason for this is that many companies that run SAP, of course, they run many other applications in their landscape as well. It could be warehousing, and, manufacturing applications, and third-party applications of any kind, as well as custom-built applications that they're continuing to develop. And that becomes more and more important today as everything's shifting into the cloud. So you have side-by-side extensions and BTP. All of this stuff continues to evolve. But when we saw this gap, what we realized is that, for SAP, there was Solution Manager that was there with Charm as well as Focus Build to help with on the project side. But there was other tools that companies used in practice for change and release management. Many companies use ServiceNow for projects. Many companies use Jira or Azure DevOps. And we saw an opportunity to really bridge those platforms together. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like. But that's where we started into the integration software. And now, of course, Cloud ALM is out on the scene. So we have those types of integrations. We also have direct integrations between Jira, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, and SAP directly. So, you don't even have to rely on Solution Manager or Cloud ALM, depending on what it is that you need. So we have many of our customers have been running on those software platforms for many years now, and we continue to bring new products to the market and expand our footprint. We cover all industries. So we have a lot of customers that have very high change volumes. And some of these are in complex industries where security requirements are extremely high. Could be financials, could be defense, or governmental type situations. And also we do a lot within the pharma space, life sciences, where it's important to have validated processes. So we've kind of seen it all. We also have smaller customers, of course, but I think we can handle challenges of any scale. And so many of these customers have been running on our platform for many years and have been satisfied with being able to push large volumes of changes through their pipeline. A little bit of background on where we see challenges. we really see the overall business transformation process as a continuous loop. And within that loop, there's kind of like three main stages, and this kind of breaks down, which I'll get into in a minute. But really, it should always start with some sort of business intent. What is the goal for this particular project, whether it's a big project or just an upgrade, or even if it's like just an ongoing maintenance change to solve a particular issue that you're having in your production environment. It should start with a business intent. Sometimes it gets a little bit technical, but it's always important to put a business lens on this and say, what is the overall improvement or impact to the process that I expect to have, and how does that affect my business? And start with that on the process side first. Then, of course, you have to manage the project. Could be small, could be lots of items, and then you have to maintain the solution as part of that project and get ready with all of your testing and get ready for deployment. And then when deployment comes, there's the moving it into your pre-production, your production landscapes, and then ongoing operations, making sure that you're monitoring that solution, that it's continuing to deliver the benefits. And this is where the closed loop comes in, because once you have those changes live in your system, you should be able to evaluate. Ideally, when you set up your project, in your process improvements, you identified the key metrics that you want to be able to see from your business. Is it achieving those metrics or not? And that, as part of your ongoing operation, that could be end user monitoring or business process monitoring that you use to capture those APIs to see that the change is actually being adopted within your organization. And based on that, you have new learnings, and that continues the feedback loop where you can go back into further process updates and down the path. And so we're seeing that businesses are needing to accelerate that loop because they need to take advantage of much newer technologies. AI has totally changed the game in terms of how rapidly organizations need to change in order just to keep up, let alone to get ahead and to provide some sort of competitive advantage. But you have to still ensure that you have a very robust process to keep your projects on the rails. So of course, to support all of these, there's different capabilities that you need to do. I've listed them here on the screen. Probably many others, but these are some of the high level buckets of what needs to be controlled in order for you to be successful. And to do this, there's many different applications, and so it can be kind of confusing, and many companies are looking at all of these tools. It could be tools from SAP, such as Signavio for business process design and maintenance, as well as LeanIX for system capability analysis and road mapping for your systems as to how to meet those business processes. And then Cloud ALM, of course, covers a wide range of the different functions, which we're going to discuss in more detail today, including all the way through to operations, although some limitations in the Cloud ALM implementation compared to what we are used to with a very robust solution manager implementation. But anyways, they have quite a bit of support. And then there's other SAP partners such as Tricentis, which helps on the test optimization, test orchestration, test automation side of things. And then, of course, there's non-SAP applications that companies are using for digital updates, or as I mentioned, those other systems outside of SAP that are, really a big part of overall operation and support for customer use cases. And for those other applications, Jira is very common, and Azure DevOps for projects. Azure DevOps kind of crosses the line. It's often used for projects, but also ongoing operations and continuous improvement, more like a DevOps continuous improvement methodology. And then ServiceNow often gets involved on the change and release management side. So the challenge is that many of these tools have a lot of overlap. So there's a lot of commonality between the workflows, the processes, the statuses, and so it's confusing as to which tools to use. So what we try to do as Core ALM, and just to put things in a kind of a pointed, to give you some clarity on exactly where we play, is in between these layers or above all of these layers, we try to create this unification layer where it basically allows you to have one continuous process that spans across all of these applications and gives you one consistent approach. And that is the same approach that you would use if you're doing changes for SAP or projects for SAP or projects for non-SAP or hybrid projects where you have a combination of SAP and non-SAP, which is probably the most common mix. And so really the idea is that every enterprise can take Core ALM's unification layer and use that to create one consistent process across the board that covers everything. We often see that, you know, when we talk to our customers, they're running a project, it's an SAP project, they say, well, we use these tools for SAP, but for non-SAP, we have a completely different approach. We can help you to standardize that approach so everybody has a consistent experience. What that does is it brings teams together and allows them to work together in a much more collaborative, real-time way, but takes advantage of the back-end tools that are available from SAP so that you can manage your transports, you can deal with all of the SAP best practice content, you can have automated testing specifically for SAP and a lot of other features that SAP brings to the table that's not part of these other tools. But again, we want to have one version of the truth, and for all of the teams to be synchronized, be looking at the same information at any given time. So these are our product line, just a very high level view. We have historically all of our solution manager connectors. We also have Cloud ALM connectors, which we're going to be talking about today. And you know, the newest offering is the ability to connect directly from Jira, Azure DevOps, and ServiceNow back into SAP so you can manage transports. That's for ABAP transports, as well as for your cloud-based transports in BTP, or even non-SAP transports. So let's get into that a little bit. Because what we really see here is an opportunity to accelerate the workflow associated with change by shifting to the left, meaning earlier in time, catching problems sooner. And so what are some things that we can do there? So we can take your workflow and we can, based on where you are in the status of your change, we can help you to identify what are some opportunities to improve before it gets too far in the cycle. So even before you get to your, like, let's say, change advisory board meeting to approve a change that could be part of a maintenance update or a project, we can be doing automated code quality analysis on the changes that you're proposing to make and feed that information back to the developer so that we can, you know, identify vulnerabilities or optimization or making sure that you're staying within your development standards. We can also integrate with external you know, source code repositories. Of course, we're going to respect all of the object locking so that you're not overwriting changes if you have a complex multi, you know, level landscape with an N+1 type situation, because sometimes projects run on their own landscape, but you have maintenance changes going on in parallel, so you don't want to have any conflicting changes. We can also make sure that when it's time to release those changes, that they're properly sequenced, that all of the cross references are available so that you're not making a change that is dependent on something that's not part of that package, which is just going to cause a problem later. So we catch those problems earlier and prevent you from like reversing or moving to a lower version of a release or downgrading. We can prevent that. We can automate build activities. And then we can, on the testing side, we can really help you identify what are the root changes or the biggest impacted areas. And that could be through integrations with, you know, applications like LiveCompare from Tricentis, which is a great application to help you save time and optimize what testing you're doing centered around the changes that you're trying to make, as well as test automation. So we provide testing as a service. We have customers that in short time, like 5 months, we're able to take thousands of regression test cases and fully automate those so they can run those every day and not have to go through manual testing on, you know, every time they make a change to their platform, which actually justifies the cost of doing the implementation. So I could go on in terms of the work that we can do. Of course, we can synchronize to cloud-based, and you can have a hybrid. So it's important to have the ability to make changes to SAP, also to BTP, and even to non-SAP as part of the same change. And the only way to do that is through the integration with these tools. We do that directly in the tool of your choice. Could be Azure DevOps, could be ServiceNow, could be Jira, and we'll give you these capabilities directly there. Just some quick notes on where you can get more information if this is of interest to you. We do have a weekly newsletter, and we did cover a topic very similar to this in last week's newsletter, which is published on LinkedIn. You can scan the barcode that's on your screen right now, or go to LinkedIn and search for the SAP ALM Navigator. And that is our weekly publication. If you subscribe to that, then you'll get notified for any updates. We have another one coming up this week that talks about exactly this, testing related to projects and how you can stay on track. So please do follow that. Also, you can visit our resources page, bottom left corner of the screen right now. That's where we publish our upcoming webinars, so you can see other topics that you might be interested in and subscribe to that. If you can't make the time that's there, still just do register and we'll send you a recording at the end of the webinar. And then, of course, if you want to get in touch with us directly, you can go to our website. There's a button in the top right corner that says talk to an expert, or you can go to the link in the bottom right corner of your screen and just fill out the form quickly. That's how most of our customers get in touch with us for the first time. And we will set up a meeting with you and we can go into more tailored demonstrations where we can talk specifically about your use case. So let's get into it. I'd like to introduce my guest for today. That'll be Errol Sika. Errol, welcome to today's webinar.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. You're coming in loud and clear. And you and I have worked on some projects together with customers. We know how challenging these projects can be. And so I want to ask you if you could sort of walk through for our audience today and share some of what we've learned as lessons learned, as well as best practices on how to bring in the right kind of process that's going to ensure a higher level of success. So with that, take it away.
Okay. Yep. Thank you for that, Steve. Let me see if I can share my screen very quickly.
Oh, I might need to give you control. Yeah. Okay, you should be good.
All right. You can see my screen presentation.
Not yet.
Not yet.
There it is. Got it.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Let me just go back one. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get started. I know you covered lots of good information there. Why SAP projects fail, correct? So, right, there's the alignment, and we're here to talk about the alignment and the connection between Cloud ALM and ADO, which is very important, of course, to all of the teams that are part of the project. They could be in SAP and non-SAP teams. And the important thing is here we want to have and the connect that gives you that holistic visibility to all of the work that's in front of all of the teams, the statuses of work, and areas that where they may be behind. From an agenda perspective, we'll start off with just telling you about what Cloud ALM is, just an overview, and then we'll talk about the capabilities that Cloud ALM offers. From an implementation perspective, right? These are things that Cloud ALM has, but there's also functionalities that ADO has, and then the link where we bridge all of this together. And so we'll talk about that integration piece and the in-system demo. So starting off with with an introduction, it is the Cloud ALM is a cloud-based application that supports both your on-cloud and on-premise customers. It requires minimal effort to set up actually, and is offered at no cost to SAP customers. So if you already have a subscription to SAP, it's free for those customers. It's free for you. It is the new LAM tool, so providing that allows you providing the replacement for the old solution manager for both your implementation and all of your maintenance projects as well. So you can design, you can build, test, and deploy you can test and deploy all throughout all of the phases. And then, of course, from an operational perspective, you can detect errors. You can analyze those root causes. You can correct those problems and automate those performances. So it does support your SAP Activate, those SAP methodology, to help you jumpstart your projects from the requirements, so all the way to the deployment phase. So as you are gathering those requirements, the wants or the wants or the functionalities that the business is asking, so you can jumpstart from there. And of course, it gives you all of those accelerators from the onboarding, from the very beginning on the onboarding phase, as you are onboarding the project teams, and then as you are designing the to-be solution and you are building the actual future state, what that will look like, and as you are testing the work that's been implemented, doing a realize, and then of course as you are releasing those changes to the deployment phase and to the next quality gate. It also does offer integration with third-party tools, Azure DevOps being one of them from a project management perspective, but also from Tricentis as well from a testing perspective. So you can leverage the integration between both tools. It is your one-stop shop for all your project-related activities. During your implementation, as it ties together your design, build, test, and deployment, as I mentioned earlier. So as you are designing your solution, it helps you with the solution, with those solution scenarios that help you to make up those to-be processes. So where you are, and also your process authoring. This is where you are capturing those process flow diagrams. And on top, you can use the requirement management app to capture those requirements during your fit or standard workshops. From a build perspective that we have here, so we takes the initial backlog that you have captured from your configuration or your requirements, and then of course you can actually break them. The tool allows you to break those down, similar to what you would have in ADO as well. You can use them. You can break them down to user stories or additional tasks, so you can add a more granular level. So depending on your role, you can leverage all of those functionalities. If you're a project manager, you might be interested more at a high level at the requirements, versus a Scrum Master who might be more focused, more detail, or at a task level. And then, of course, from a testing perspective, to ensure the quality, Cloud ALM offers both manual, automated, and manual test cases. And then, of course, you can track defects as well during your testing cycles. And then, from a deployment, it helps you manage your transports and changes within the quality gates. And in Cloud ALM, they're called features, and I will show you what those will look like as well. It does also offer project management capabilities that align with your discover and project phase. So this is where you can create your projects, you can define your milestones for the phases, for the implementation projects, and you can assign team members to it as well. So as you are transitioning from the very beginning, from the prepare, you're going over to the design phase. This is where it helps you jumpstart your fit to standard workshops. So as you are scheduling these workshops with business, they're telling you, what is a fit, so what we need to configure, or what is a gap, what we would capture as requirements, those changes that we need to do, those functionalities that we actually need to do. So this comes standard with from Cloud ALM. So if it's a custom or a standard requirement, those are captured during a workshop, then you assign them to the project process scope. And then for traceability, you can further break down those requirements at a more granular level, as I mentioned earlier, into user stories and tasks. And then, of course, based on those requirements, this is where we would come in, and we would assign the features, which would be your transports. So as you continue during your design, you don't need an actual, you wouldn't need, so if you have SAP teams that feel comfortable managing their work in Cloud ALM, you don't need a third-party tool at this point, even though we have the connector, and I'll show you what that would look like. So from that perspective, Cloud ALM does give you that visibility. You can manage your work directly in Cloud ALM, whether this would be more a task level, requirement level, but also as you are capturing those to-be process diagrams. So the process authoring tool provides standard out-of-the-box diagram flows that can be tailored to match your to-be processes. And then, of course, if you need them, these flows can be imported and exported as a BPM and PDFs as well. So you wouldn't need third-party tools such as Harris or any other Visio or any other tools. Cloud ALM does offer that for you. And then as you transition from your design, you start your build. This is where the SAP Activate roadmap comes in, where you can run your agile implementation. And this is where you can manage your requirements, your tasks, your features. They can train all of your transport. And then once the transports move on to the next gate, then you know exactly what's included in those changes as well. And these are some of the parts that we actually have the connectors as well. And I'll show you this in the demo. And then of course, once you've completed the build, one of the areas that you know where we've seen some of the struggles is the testing portion. If you haven't used what SAP refers to as clean core, I'm sure everyone has heard it by now. But you know, if you haven't used a clean core, you don't have an outlined business process hierarchy. Once you get to the testing, that's where you will see some of the shortfalls. This is, you know, this is an area that we've seen several times. So you want to make sure that you are doing all of these right things ahead of time that we just captured, so that when you come to testing, you can fully leverage all of the testing capabilities and orchestration from a Cloud ALM perspective. So this is where you be prepared. The apps allow you to prepare your test cases, where you can manage and prepare your test cases, whether those are manual or automated. Then, of course, in the test plan, you take those test cases and you can assign them to a test preparation. And then in the test execution, you would take all of those test cases that we have on the test preparation, and this is what you would execute. And this is where you would, if you're getting an undesirable result, this is where you can actually manage those defects as well. So you can capture those defects, and then the integration that we have, you have those defects will flow over into ADO as well. So if you have both teams that need to work on a specific defect, those teams will have that visibility at all times. And then, of course, at the very bottom here, you can see that there's also integration with third-party testing tool as well. So if you have another testing tool, if you're using Tricentis, you can leverage that as well. And then, of course, this is where we would bring everything together from a full traceability perspective, from the original requirements that we had captured all the way to deploy in a holistic approach. So as you are capturing those requirements, then as you are breaking down those requirements into user stories, then of course you are also assigning features, which are the transports. And then as you are starting at a more granular level, this would be you would have some type of functional testing for those tasks. And then of course this is the next set is where we would engage the business for acceptance testing, as we'll be testing out those requirements or to be processes that were captured during the workshop. Then, of course, once you get the business's validation, then there's some type of integration testing where you test several business processes as part of your scenario testing. But in order to achieve this full traceability, it's part of we want to go through the SAP Clean Core that we refer to, and also have utilize all of the jump starters and the all of the standard functionalities that SAP and Cloud ALM leverages. And then from an integration perspective, Cloud ALM offers integration with third-party tools through the open APIs. ADO is one of them that can help you manage your projects. So if you have non-SAP teams and SAP teams that are managing their work, the non-SAP teams might be managing their work in ADO. You can map one-to-one requirements to the features. You can also map those tasks and to those user stories and those defects to bugs as you are doing testing. And what this gives you, what it provides is that it gives you a holistic view of the project and all of its teams, whether they are performing both SAP and non-SAP work. This is where you tie everything together, cloud everything together. And then, of course, Core ALM we do offer specific by direction Cloud ALM to Azure DevOps connectors, and of course there are other connectors, as Steve mentioned as well, that will help with your integration. And the next one. So if SAP Cloud ALM is the initiating system for the bidirectional synchronization of your task statuses, then the updates, once a requirement or a task is created, then the status updates is made in the other system directly and automatically, as it's automatically synchronized. So if I update one status in one tool, I'll get the same status on the other tool. Then the concept is the same if Azure DevOps is a leading tool. So if a feature is created, and then in Azure DevOps, it'll flow over to Cloud ALM as a requirement. And then once the status is updated, then that status will update automatically in Cloud ALM as it's automatically synchronized. The idea is from a field mapping perspective, it is the same, the concept is the same. It is bidirectional. So once data is correctly transferred between SAP and Cloud ALM and ADO, then the fields data is populated in the requirement as well as it's transferred to the feature here. And an example would be if we have a priority field, for example, in the requirement, we select that as medium priority, and the same thing would be then that field matches the same priority in ADO, so as they are updated automatically. So that is it from the PowerPoint presentation. We'll go ahead and we'll jump into the live demo, and let me just get a couple of things straight here, and then we'll go. Okay. So what you're looking at here is the project management app that we have, the Cloud ALM has provided here. So once you've created your project, you've assigned teams, you've created teams, assigned roles to all those teams, then you have all of your deployment plans. So once you have everything set up from that perspective, then we have the connector, everything is set up. Then, as you can see here, then of course we have the scope and all of the landscape that has been set up. Then the next thing as I mentioned earlier, what we want to do is, and Cloud ALM does a very good job at this. They bring in those processes. So they bring in those processes that the SAP does provide. These are to help you jumpstart your project. This is where you can see here on the process app. These are all the processes that I have brought in as part of my scope. If we need any additional scope, and additional processes, this is where we can do it. We just turn on and off the radio button. I'm not going to save any changes, but this is the idea here is that, we don't need to start from scratch. SAP gives us all of that information to jumpstart our processes. Then inside once I have those processes, there are automatic flows that come in. This is at a higher level. I will show you what that look like in a little bit of a lower level, but I want to show you what we have on the attributes pane here. So on the right hand side, so once we've taken in those best practices, running the process, we can assign owners to those processes. We actually have SAP brings us all of these best practices. So we're not starting from scratch. We have all of the information here that's needed, the key process flows. So the team has that jumpstart to go off from. Then there's also we can assign it to the hierarchy, and I'll show you what that will look like in a little bit. But there's all these accelerators that are brought in here, and it gives us the full visibility. So as we are starting our workshops, we can come in and capture those requirements that the team is calling, whether they're a gap or a fit, and then we can take and we can break down those requirements into user stories. So if we want more granularity. And we can, if we're looking for even further granularity, more at the, as we're delivering work in sprints or other iterations, that this is where we can go ahead and do that. So as we're taking those processes, we're calling our requirements, we're capturing those requirements, and then I will show you the diagram portion of it, and then I'll show you what the link in ADO will look like as we are capturing those requirements. So if as you are going through the workshops and you need to actually capture, you have this jump start, but you need to capture additional flows or additional steps, this is where you can actually go ahead and do that. The process authoring tool will give you the option, so you can go ahead and make changes and tailoring. So as you are tailoring these systems, these diagram flows in real time, you're actually capturing those requirements. And then it was also the importance here will be because as you are capturing those, as you are capturing all of information during your design and build, then of course when you get to testing, you'll have the foundation already set up. So when you get to testing and you start pulling those test cases together, you already have all of the structure there. And a good one of the great benefits of this is that Cloud ALM allows you to capture this, but also you have the business process diagrams and also the hierarchy that are all brought in together. So you don't necessarily have 3 or 4 different Excel sheets that are tracking all of these requirements, all of the BPH nodes, and also as you are creating other Excel worksheets to start creating your test cases. So the idea here is that that negates all of the needs from Excel or any of the other documents you may use. The idea is that you have all of this in Cloud ALM. So it's a one-stop shop. And then, so let me just go back here very quickly. So as we are capturing those requirements and we're gearing up for a build, obviously we may have interfaces where we might need work from non-SAP teams, and this is where the integration will come in. So as we are capturing those requirements, we can assign owners all of the information that you can see here. We can break them down to user stories, additional tasks. This is where we can actually assign the transports. So we know, so we can test the functionalities and move those changes to the next stage gate. But as you can see here on the references, this is the link to that we have to Azure DevOps. So if I was to just click there, it will take me to ADO. So this is the view that we get in ADO, and then of course it is bi-directional. So any changes that I would make here, those changes will flow back into Cloud ALM. So that way the teams have visibility as well. And then if there's additional work, then we need to break down. As you can see down here, I've created some additional tasks. The idea is the same. So as we are sending over the requirements at a high level, then the non-SAP teams that are also doing work, but they're not doing SAP work, can break down and capture that additional scope of work. And then the idea here is the same, that as we have, for example, as we even the non-SAP teams, they are making updates and changes, and then we can actually see all of those updates and changes by clicking the link here, and it's going to take me back to Cloud ALM. So everything that we are delivering as part of this requirement, whether it's both SAP and non-SAP portion, it will all be under one umbrella, and we would have that visibility as well. And I know I mentioned the BPH. So this is where you would, as you are capturing those requirements, and of course, this is where you would come in and you would capture the business process hierarchy. So we know what nodes are assigned to where, and also what requirements and what the to-be business processes and flows need to look like. And if it's fairly straightforward. If you need to make any changes, you can just create a new one, or you can if you need to make any edits, you can make an edit here, or we can delete. And then if you need to upload, you can upload. You can make uploads directly, or even download some of these hierarchies, which obviously you could have more than one. So as you are going through build, you're capturing those requirements, and I did talk about features as well. This is where think of the features as your transport. So this is where you can actually come in and you can assign transport as you are moving from one stage to the other. It is fairly straightforward, easy to use. We can assign owners. You can assign to a specific release, and if we need to make any changes. So if I wanted to go back in implementation, this is where I can do that. So I take the transports back. We can make changes, and then once they're ready for the next phase, we can hand them over to testing. And so as we are as we are now transitioning from build to testing, and this is where we're still continuing. This is where we'll bring everything in together. So this is where we can leverage Cloud ALM for our test preparation, and this will be for manual and automated test cases. So if you have the Tricentis automation provider, this is where we can do automated test cases as well, and also manual test cases. So you are taking those tests, creating those test cases, putting them in test preparation, and then we are putting together a test plan. So this is where we can actually do this. So right, as you remember from the very beginning, this is one of the processes that I took from the SAP best practices. And then if we wanted to look at the test case in itself, Cloud ALM will bring us the initial structure, meaning that what we capture as part of our workshops, that to be processed, all of those diagrams, Cloud ALM will bring that us in here directly, meaning that we can use it as jumpstart. We don't need to start from scratch. There's already test cases and content that we can leverage, and if something does not apply, then we can just remove it. So now that we've created the test cases, we put together a test plan, and then the next thing would be the test execution. We can do that. We can do that in Cloud ALM as well. So we can take one of the test cases, as you can see, the one here at the top that has a 1 on it, and that's where the defects. So as you are going through testing, it's fairly straightforward. You can just see by the status, title, instructions, and the expected results. So we know where what we are testing and what is the expected result, and also what level, whether it be a level 4 or level 3, depending on your setup, would be, and where we are. So if everything goes as planned, we can give that a pass. But if something does not go, if we don't get the expected result, then this is this is where we'd create a defect. So, and if you are using the connector, this is bidirectional as well. So if you are capturing, as we're capturing defects, there might be some defects that the non-SAP teams would need visibility and they could work on. They need to work on. This is where we can actually do that. If I click on the link here, it will take me over to DevOps, and the teams here have visibility. And of course, I can make changes here. I can assign new owners and priority and all of that, or even add more detailed information. And once the idea is the same, once changes, updates are made, then those updates will, if I want to check what they would look like in Cloud ALM, I'll just click the link here. Or if I was to just update it, then the changes would flow automatically back into Cloud ALM. So if you're using, if you're doing daily defect triage, maybe once or twice a day, you can use, this will be one of the features that you can leverage, where you can get the visibility from both systems using the integration. And then I know I was saying that we want that, the one-stop shop, everything under the umbrella. This is where we bring everything in from the initial processes that we had to the process that we had, the requirements that we captured, all the tasks that we delivered, whether they were SAP or non-SAP, any documentation that we might have used, the test preparation, test execution, the defects as well, and even this is more on the libraries perspective on the applications. So the reusability of libraries. This is where everything comes in together. You're tracking everything here. It's all under one umbrella. You don't need several different Excels. You have the traceability here, whether you are testing or for your functionalities at the level 2, or whether you are testing at a more granular level. This is where Cloud ALM and the integration comes in very very handful, and that's actually very powerful.
And if I could just jump in here, because I think if you just keep this screen for a minute, we're going to show you the integration with ADO shortly after. And if you do have questions thus far, please do enter them into the chat. We will make time to answer your questions at the end of the presentation as well. But please understand that this screen, it looks pretty simple, but this is a reason how these tools can help you keep your projects on track, because projects have a lot of moving parts. There's so many different customizations that get made, and maybe you have hundreds, sometimes even thousands of obviously test cases, but specific customizations that you're making, small little enhancements, integrations, and those types of things. And it kind of gets lost in the weeds. What this does is it allows you to take all of that information and kind of roll it up to higher levels. Because the challenge with SAP is it covers such a broad area that people tend to focus on their particular work stream because they don't have the headspace to go across outside of their area. And what's really critical is to identify what are the test scenarios that you're going to run through that is actually going to exercise your functionality from end to end. And the reason why we've taken great pains to kind of walk you through this process today is because where this typically fails on projects is there's a pressure to get out of the design phase and jump into build, sometimes before the process is extremely well defined. And although generally it's a good idea to get started on your functional specifications, even baseline configuration early, so that you can actually have a tangible system within SAP that you can demonstrate to users. It's also very important not to leave the design phase or the explore phase, if you're using the activate methodology, before you have clarity on how the process is actually going to flow from end to end. And so establishing like those workflows up front, as Harold was mentioning, is really, really important. And then being able to tie those together with your test cases. So you say, okay, as I go through this workflow, each of these steps, here's the specific test case that I'm going to do, and test it early on in the cycle. And that way you can generate some feedback from users before it gets too late. Because often what happens is a lot of these big integration issues, and I'm not saying integration from a technical perspective, but from a process perspective, having an end-to-end flow across all of your processes, that's the main failure point, because everybody's focused on their little area, finance or logistics or procurement, and they don't have the headspace to sort of go outside of that. But forcing the teams to walk through that end-to-end connected functionality inside of SAP and outside of SAP will give you visibility to even design gaps or issues that you have before you get too far into your build. Because once you get to testing, it's usually very expensive to go back and fix those. Sometimes the fix is required and 100%, you can't go live without it. That could delay your timeline and add cost. Or sometimes the business will just have to suck it up and deal with something that's less desirable as an outcome. And again, this is where you would call that project failure creeps in to these projects. So if you can catch those early, even on paper, by walking through those processes, you're going to be better off. It is extra work, there's no doubt about it. But if you do that extra work up front, you could be saving a lot more development effort and overall reducing the risk and the cost on your project. All right, Harold, I'll let you get back to the integration.
Okay, that was actually what that was what I had actually, Steve. So we're at a good spot. If we have any questions, if we have any questions, we can open the floor up too.
Okay, let me check here. So the question here is how to configure application ALM, I guess Cloud ALM, for string testing with dependencies between modules? And perfect question. Good segue into what we've been talking about here. So how would you do like string type testing, Harold?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, correct. So there's you have functionality testing. So you're testing at the requirement level, but also you have different processes that make up those integrations. So that's where you can leverage Cloud ALM, whether those would be automated or manual test cases. So putting them together, getting all those standard out-of-the-box test cases, and also other test cases, or if you need to tailor them, this is a good time where you can do that. So, but the idea is that you have a solid foundation, and if you need to make one or two tweaks, you can do that, but you're not starting from scratch. You're using all of the best experience from Cloud ALM.
And in terms of string tests, though, so you've sort of showed us how you can create test cases as part of a particular module, which would, it's a little bigger than a unit test, probably because it tests the process itself. But let's say you had multiple processes and you wanted to put those together in sequence. I think you can create test plans specifically for those. Yep. Is that the way you would do it?
Correct. Yeah. You would create the test plan, and as I showed earlier, you could create a test plan. You create all the different test cases that you can assign to that test plan, and then execute.
Perfect. So the best practice is to make sure that your test cases are aligned to your business process hierarchy, so they kind of break out by each of the different process areas. But your testing, it's best to identify some key scenarios, 25 or so different scenarios that are your, target high, repeat business activities that run from end to end, all the way from, procure to payment. So it involves many different cross-functional teams. And those can be defined as test plans that you bring into your various integration test cycles. Hopefully that answers the question. If not, you can ask a follow-up question in the chat. So you mentioned that Cloud ALM is free. I think if people want to use the Azure DevOps integration, if they're running Azure DevOps, our product does add on to that to build the integration. The question there is, what's involved in getting that initial implementation of the connector set up so that you can have communication between Azure DevOps and Cloud ALM? Can you get us started answering that question, Harold? And I can jump in.
Okay, so I do need a little bit more. I didn't understand the question correct.
Yeah, so exactly. I think really just how hard is it to get ADO integrated with Cloud ALM?
Oh, yep. The connector, yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward. It doesn't require too much configuration. It's with minimal effort. We could have that set up, so it's easy and painless.
Great. And so just for people's awareness, the plugin is actually available on the Microsoft Azure DevOps store. So you can go there. You can actually install directly the plugin from the Microsoft Azure DevOps store. And what that'll do is it'll give you the ability to connect from cloud to cloud. There's some security authorization steps that have to be done so that the two platforms can securely talk to each other. Everything is done from a configuration perspective. All of our products are configuration only, no code required whatsoever. We have a single code base across all of our customers, which means that integration is just the same for every customer. So if a customer needs a new feature, we build it into the product. We make configuration toggles or feature flags that you can use to turn those features on and off. And again, no code required. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of our time. Harold, thank you so much for walking us through this demonstration. Hopefully we've answered some of your questions if you're here live. Thanks for your participation. If you're watching the recording, thanks for making it all the way to the end. If anybody has any additional questions, the best way to get a hold of us is just go to our website and you can click on the Talk to an Expert button in the top right corner. That's going to take you to a form. You submit your question directly in that form. That'll come to us, and we can reach back out to you immediately. And we can do tailored demonstrations on whatever it is that you need. Just bear in mind, we've been focusing today on projects, but we also support ongoing maintenance, change, and overall quality, as well as test automation services that we can deliver as a platform where you're basically exercising all of these functions that you built into your application every single day, so that you can make sure that your application is staying robust and reliable. Again, thank you all. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.